Hello, today we're going to learn about literal equations and how to solve them. So what is a literal equation? A literal equation is an equation which consists of primary letters or variables. So it's an equation that has more than one variable. So if you look down here, here are all examples. All of these equations have more than one variable in them. A lot of these are formulas, like this is a formula for perimeter, formula for Fahrenheit, formula for circumference. So these are used a lot in math and solving for particular variables, and they're also used a lot in science when you're solving for a given variable. All right, how do we solve literal equations? Well, first we want to identify the variable we're solving for, and then we're going to use inverse or opposite operations to get the variable we want by itself on one side of the equal sign. So in this first example, I have solve for y when it's 6x plus 4y equals 24. So it says I'm solving for y. So I know I want to get this y by itself. That is my goal, is I want to get this y all by itself on one side of the equation. So I'm going to solve this by using inverse or opposite operations. So this I'm going to treat like it's a two-step equation. I want to get rid of the thing without the variable I'm solving for, without the y first. So this would be 6x, I want to get rid of that. So I can do minus 6x to get rid of it on this side, and then whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So that leaves me with 4y on the left side. And on my right side, I have negative 6x, and I have a plus 24. I can't combine those two because the negative 6 has an x attached to it, and the 24 is a constant. It does not have an x attached to it. So now I'm going to continue on trying to solve for y. That's what I want to get, y by itself. So I have 4y. I know a number next to a letter means multiply, so I want to divide by 4 to get rid of that 4 and leave me with y. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I'm going to divide that whole thing by 4. Negative 6 divided by 4 would just be negative 6 over 4. And then the x would stay with it. 24 divided by 4 is 6, so I can put plus 6. So I'm almost done, but I can simplify this fraction. I see they're both even, so I can divide that by 2. So that will give me y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 6. So when I solve literal equations, I want to use the opposite or inverse operation to get the variable by itself. Notice in my answer, I'm still going to have a variable, right? Because we don't know what x is. We were solving for y, and we moved that x to the other side and got rid of the coefficient of y to get y by itself. All right, let's try another example. This example, it says solve for w. I have p equals 2l plus w. So I want to get this w by itself. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to use the opposite or inverse operation to get that w by itself. So I know I can get rid of this 2l because there's no w in there. It's a positive 2l, so I can do minus 2l to get rid of it on this side. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And that's going to leave me with p minus 2l. And on my right side, I'm stuck with 2w. So I still want to get this w by itself, and I see it's 2w, so that means I have to divide by 2 to leave me with w on this side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Well, p divided by 2 would just be p over 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 would be negative 1, so it would leave me with negative 1l, or minus l. So my answer would be p divided by 2 minus l equals w. Another way you could see this is really there's a 1 in front of that p. So really another way you could see this would be 1/2, because 1/2 is right here, and that p is still with it, minus l equals w. This and this mean the same thing, but we just solved our literal equation for w. All right, let's do another example. This one says solve for C. This is the formula of Fahrenheit and Celsius. So if I knew something in Celsius, it could give me Fahrenheit for degrees. This way they want us to say solve for C. So I'm going to get that C by itself. That's my goal. So just like solving an equation, I see I have plus 32 here. I can get rid of that plus 32 by doing minus 32. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So on my left side of my equal sign, I'm going to have F minus 32. And then on the right side of my equal sign, I'm going to have 9/5 times C. So I still want to get that C by itself. And I know if I have a fraction as a coefficient, I have to times it by the reciprocal. So that means the bottom number goes to the top and the top number goes to the bottom. You're flipping the fraction to cancel these out on this side and leave us with the variable C. I have to do the same thing to the other side. I have to times this by the reciprocal. And I'm timesing this whole side by 5/9. So since I'm timesing this whole thing by 5/9, my answer can be 5/9 parentheses, because a number next to parentheses means times, F minus 32. And that's my final answer. All right, that is how we solve literal equations. Literal equations have more than one variable in the equation, and we're solving for a certain variable. We use the inverse or opposite operation to solve them.